Morning, Mary.
Okay, good morning.
Hillsborough Independent News, first interview.
Great.
What we'll go over is just basically how you got involved, when you started and everything like that. A little share about you.
Okay, I grew up here in Sacktown. I've been here all my life, and my grandfather's name was Jose Smith, and he was one of the first settlers here in Sacktown. So he he had a family at that time, and they gave him a lot of land here in Sacktown. So I live currently where I grew up, literally, played in the trees and the dirt and everything. So I'm still in the same area, same place. Right now I'm going to turn 68 this year. So that's how long I've been here. I first started my education with Pima Central School, and I was a really a kid that liked to explore things and learn about things. So my mother took me out of there when I was in the second grade and started me out in Coolidge when I was in the third. And I learned a lot of things, and I got involved with artwork. I used to do a lot of artwork for the school and do a lot of handicrafts. I made my own leather belt and beadwork, and I was in the school play, and so I'm just outgoing. Made a lot of friends along the way, but I tended to go towards people who had no friends, and some of them were being picked on, and I just became, I wanted to know about them and why people didn't like them. And so I learned several things about bias, racism at a very early age. And then after I went to elementary school, junior high, I went to St. John's Indian School and got my religious education there. I rose up through the ranks to be a leader in a lot of clubs, a lot of organizations while at school. And I got to see a little bit of the outside world when our drum and bugle corps was picked to go to the Seattle World's Fair. So I got to see that, and our sponsor put us up in one of those big ships that were docked at the harbor. And they tried to give us salmon steaks, and nobody would touch it. We'd rather eat hamburgers. So it was an experience, and our leader got mad at us for not accepting the huge salmon steaks, but we were not fish eaters at the time. Right now I love salmon. I can eat that, and it's with no problem. Then after that, I won a scholarship from the Phoenix newspapers. And at that time, it seemed like a lot of money. It was $5,000. So I started my education at ASU. And, coming from a small high school, I couldn't survive that huge school. It was just too big. So I transferred over to junior colleges. I went to Phoenix College, and then I went to Central Arizona College. And I didn't really necessarily want a degree. I just did that to learn how to teach myself. So that's how I learned. I read a lot, and then I study a lot. And I'm just inquisitive about different areas, not one particular area. So at that time, I had to make a living. I worked at several jobs. I was just a housekeeper at one time. Then I went to a sales clerk. Then I went to a key punch operator. I was a janitor. I was a teacher's aide, a school bus driver, one of the first women here in Gila River to be a school bus driver. And so I got a job with the U.S. Postal Service. And I stayed there for 12 and a half years and rose up to the rank of postmaster. My postmaster retired.
Yeah.
So she asked me if I was interested, so I applied. But there was a sort of a bias too in the Postal Service. So they hired a non-Indian, and she came here, and she didn't stay here very long. So I still would have been a postmaster if I stayed, but I didn't. When I worked at the post office, I started learning people, but I didn't know their names. I knew their box numbers. So when I went down the street and I saw a person, I said, "Oh, you're box so-and-so." And that's how I got to learn about people and began a relationship with them where they would tell me things in the community that was wrong, things that were going right. And so I decided to, look into the health issue because at 17 I became a diabetic. So I started looking at diabetes itself, and what my future was going to be like. So I went to apply for the health board. At that time I was still in my early 20s. So I got on the health board with some wiser, older people, and they taught me a lot about the health. And so I stayed with it until I was nominated to run for council. And so some new idea, I didn't know anything about council, So I won, and then I stayed in there for 3 years, and I got on various committees. Another one was Health and Social Committee and Legislative Committee. And I also sat on the Planning and Zoning Committee at that time. It was being formed. And I had no inkling of, going any further than that because I didn't think I was qualified, but people saw something in me I didn't. And so when it time for running for office again, a change in the administration, they nominated me to run for lieutenant governor. So I said, why not? So I did, and I won my election, and I became the first woman lieutenant governor under the Thomas White administration. And I stayed with him for 3 years, and it was just like you either sink or swim, So I jumped in, and I worked on some issues that the governor let me do. One of them was the waste on the community, the landfills. So I worked on that. And we closed up our landfills and started the trash pickup. Then we also looked at the storage tanks, the gasoline tanks that were at the trading posts. So we knew they were leaking into the ground, so they were getting old. So we started a massive cleanup. And so we were ahead of the federal government when they finally told the country to clean up all the old storage tanks, and we were already ahead. We were almost finished. So we were kind of like a model. Then we started looking into all the landfills and what was being done at the time, how it was ruining our land. So one of them was called a burrito project out on 51st. There was a crop dusting outfit up there that contaminated a lot of the land. And it stayed, and I think it won't go away, for 100 or 1,000 years, because some people put a trailer house, and the gases went into their trailer, and they had to move out. The trailer was condemned. So what we did is we scraped up most of the land, the dirt, and we put it in a huge plastic sheet and covered it up and rolled it up like a burrito. Then we buried it underground, and it's still there to this day. So when Mr. Governor White decided not to run for another term, he told me that, to apply for it, to go for it. And he was very, very, very strong in his belief that I could handle the governorship at that time. So I did, and I won my first election as governor. So.